Peace Teachers Lounge.
PR Connections Radio presents
Welcome everyone to JP's Teachers Lounge, episode 3. Today's title, A Lesson Through the Hemispheres. I will continue my indulgence of listening to Rush, my favorite group. Rush music has had a tremendous influence on me. But my indulgence is also relevant to what I'm going to talk about today. Today, the subtitles would be differentiated instruction, different learning styles, and crushing the monopolistic hierarchy in education. And what I mean by that is, again, going back to Howard Gardner's quote, it's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. Up until this point, up until maybe the last 15, 20 years or so, and depending on who you ask, they may disagree. It might have been only the last couple of years or last, 30 years. We've tend to follow one hierarchy of learning, and that is the traditional going to college, reading, writing, being basically book smart, linguistic smart. And that doesn't tell the whole picture. And I'm going to talk about the lesson through hemispheres and how I think that should apply to us moving forward into crushing the monopolistic hierarchy of college, university, going that route. Of course, it's important to be a lifelong learner. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the whole idea that you go to college, you graduate, you're successful, and then some people look at trade schools or military or other avenues as being somehow inferior. That needs to be crushed along the same lines of the public school, looking at the public school as a monopolistic hierarchy in which that dominates the education space. But backtracking, in 1978, Rush came out with an album called Hemispheres. It was one of their epics, and it was the end of the 70s, the end of the progressive rock movement. Well, I wouldn't say the end of it, but it was the end of probably their take on it. And in Hemispheres, it's an abstract battle. First of all, the Greek gods always tried to interfere with the lives of humans, and this was no exception. It becomes an abstract battle, almost as if Apollo and Dionysus were debating. They were both trying to get the attention of the people of the land, the people of the world. And Apollo represents left brain, thinking, logic, common sense, math, science, technical stuff, logic, reason. And Dionysus represents emotion, love, passion, instincts. So Apollo tells the people, follow me. I have what you want. He says, I bring truth and understanding. I bring wit and wisdom fair, precious gifts beyond compare. We can build a world of wonder. I can make you all aware. So he's giving his plea, his case. Follow me. I know what's right. I can show you success. You will flourish with my when you if you follow me and follow my teachings and my practice. So the people did it. They ran to build their cities and converse among the wise. And these are quotes from the story. So they go to build their cities and converse among the wise. So they're flourishing. They're they're being successful. They have enough to eat. They're indulging in science and logic, and everything is great. But then towards the end, but one day the streets fell silent, and they knew not what was wrong. The urge to build these fine things seemed not to be so strong. So there you go. There's a void. It was lacking. They knew what to do, but they didn't have the passion or the desire or the drive. So they consulted Dionysus. Dionysus, I bring love to give you solace in the darkness of the night, in the heart's eternal light. You need only trust your feelings. Only love can steer you right. And probably one of the best lines of lyrics and poetry, or at least in my opinion. He's again, Dionysus is making his plea for the people to follow him. Throw off those chains of reason, and your prison disappears. Oh, I messed up, or I should have given the whole thing. Uh, I well, there was another part of it. I can't think of it right now. But throw off those chains of reason, the chains holding you back, and your prison disappears. So let love guide you. Let let your be guided with your heart. So they ran to the forest, and they lived as brothers. They had food and wine, dancing, singing, dancing underneath the stars, and enjoying themselves. But one day, and everything was great, and they were filled with joy. But the winter fell upon them, and it caught them unprepared, bringing wolves and cold starvation, and hearts of men despaired. So there you go. That was the end of that. Well, you can't just have passion. You need some logic. You need some reason. So Cygnus, the bringer of balance, comes in and talks about again balance. And the rest of the stuff, if you're interested, you can go back and listen to it. But the reason I mention this is because I'm linking it with something. It's not just about balance. It's about learning styles and learning strengths. You have someone like Apollo who knows what to do, but he doesn't have passion. So think of people who are in certain positions where they they thrive in one area, but can't figure anything out over here. I had a good friend of mine. Unfortunately, he passed away years ago, but he was married briefly. He married a nurse, a traveling nurse. I guess what that means is she was not permanently based in a hospital, in one hospital. She would work in a hospital and then move to another hospital, and she got like an extra stipend money because they were in such demand. So he dates her, he gets married, and next next time I talked to him a few months later, he says, well, they got divorced. I said, well, what happened? Oh, she was up to her usual stuff. I said, well, what is that? He goes, she wasn't paying her bills. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how did you think that was gonna change after you got married? So she's a good, I mean, as far as I know, she was an excellent nurse. but just know how to pay your bills. So you have think of all the athletes, the musicians, the people that we admire for their ability. But in each one of them, there's an area in which they lack. And as teachers, we have to think of that. We have to keep that in mind, that some students have strengths in one area but lack in another area. They may be very smart, but they make bad decisions. So, so what I'm trying to link it to is there is no, at least in my opinion, there's no one hierarchy of intelligence. I'm book smart. I'm maybe a little street smart, but more common sense smart, book smart. But I'm not hands on. I can't build things. I can't create things or fix things. I'm the opposite of a handyman. But someone who is good at that may not be a reader, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean they don't understand things. That person still may understand things. That person may be better at working with people, learning how to work with people, learning how to talk to people, learning how to manage people, learning how to delegate authority. So the same line of that with looking at looking at someone who says, "Oh, I'm going to go to trade school," and even though the opinions, the attitudes are changing, but it's the whole idea of the assumption that, well, go to trade. That's the plan B. Go to trade school. What if it's plan A? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with going to trade school. Nothing wrong with going to the military. Nothing wrong with opening up your own business or joining the family business. I'm a as a teacher, I believe in lifelong learning, of course. But you can learn from traveling. You can learn from, unfortunately, bad experiences you can still learn from. But you can learn from traveling. You can learn from taking courses online. You can learn from uh, opening up your own business, uh, creating a partner, having a partnership in business, startup businesses, buying a vending machine, or renting, buying and operating that, managing that. There's there's nothing wrong with that. But we've taken that, oh, let's go to college and get a degree, and then get a job or whatever. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but if we treat it as if that's the hierarchy, no, it's just one option. And we talk about leveling the playing field. That's what the playing field should be. Options, letting the market decide. Again, going back to, I believe it was my first episode, talking about social security, linking social security with the whole idea of public school. And what I mean by that is, if you have a job, with certain exceptions, but you have a job and you don't have an option whether or not to pay into social security. They take the money out. Same thing with public schools. You're paying taxes on public schools, whether your kids go there or not. If you want to see if social security is really popular, make it voluntary and see what happens. Again, don't get me wrong, because I don't want to be hypocritical, although, I mean, I'm no more hypocritical than the next person. It helped my parents, helped my grandparents, help with their income. So I'm not knocking it, it's great. But the whole idea that it's a monopoly because you have no choice. You should be able to have a choice. If public schools, well, we know public schools are bad, or at least for the most part, the system is bad. There's some great schools, there's some great teachers, great administrators. But the whole idea that they can keep operating year after year without any kind of consideration. They know they're going to get funding. The money keeps coming. Same thing with Social Security. School again. I know that my first episode was about school choice, and I'm kind of backtracking to that because I'm trying to link all these things together. School choice. Well, it should be it should be choice all across the board. If you I grew up in the 80s and there was a thing called the mall. I mean, they're still around, but it's the mall has become very nostalgic because that defined the 80s a lot because that's where people hung out. There was a center. Like it's almost like the town square. It was almost like the town square. You had obviously shops, restaurants, you had McDonald's, you had different bookstores, Bookstar, Walden Books, Barnes and Noble, which is the last remaining chain. Record stores, Sam Goody, Warehouse, Music Plus, Licorice Pizza. But anyways, I mean, it's again talking about the mall. When you go to the mall, it was free to go into the mall, but you can choose where you can go, where you want to go, and you're voting with your feet and your wallet. So if you could think about like we 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 demand when it comes to business and private business, we demand this because we're the ones with a choice. The consumers are the ones with leverage, not the state or the public school. Public school is the state in a sense. I mean, it's the public. It's the public sector. It's the state. It's money that goes to the state. Private businesses make money. They got to pay the tax. They got to pay it to the state. Why can't we have something as important as education have a business model like a mall, where in your city in your city or area, you have about 10, 15, 20 different schools in which you can choose from. And maybe in some areas there are that are relatively competitive with tuition, but also what they provide, and giving people pro- promising someone a free and appropriate public education. Again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you promise them something off the backs of taxpayers. That's wrong. Just like, and again, I don't know the real reason why there's a lot of push of sending money to other countries. I'm not saying it's money laundering. Because I don't know. I mean, I don't have any any evidence, but I'm suspicious. I mean, we're not we're not friendly to, oh, let's just send money to other countries for no apparent reason other than we're trying to be good. Not when the government does it. Individuals do it, yeah. When individuals do it, sure. And that money just goes right back how it ends up going back into their wallets or their accounts. I don't know. I really don't know. And I never will. But it's money that goes into the public schools, and we have no say in it, but we gotta pay our taxes. Because then when if you choose a going to a private school, and you got to pay, like, because my parents sent me to a private school from fourth grade on, and they still had to pay taxes going into public schools. Instead of that tax money, why not take, I mean, I know it's less money for the state. Is that such a bad thing? Well, I mean, look at the results. But again, it's something that uh, well, I know I talked a lot of moving back into the first episode about school choice and everything, but getting back to, yes, because I tend to get sidetracked, but getting back to what I'm talking about today, different learning styles, different different learning strategies. It's important to be aware of that, because the student that's misbehaving is misbehaving for a reason. That student's needs are not being met. Now, does that mean they have a free pass and can act foolish? No. But the needs are not being met. Why punish that student's family by, if that person goes to a private school, they have to pay tuition? So here, public school's free. Over here, pay a lot of tuition. That's not a level playing field to me. A level playing field is having options, having competition, having, and even if a family has to pay tuition, it should be minimal. Competition should bring the prices down. It should. I know it doesn't always, but it should. Capitalism is a good system. Is it perfect? No. Is Does it make sense for someone to have billions of dollars and someone else to be rummaging in the trash can for a meal for eat? No, that's wrong too. Give that person some respect and dignity, and allow that person to have food, but give that person an opportunity to work it off. Okay, and to make that person feel as if there is a level playing field and the system is not rigged against them. Because this, I mean, again, the system's not far from perfect. We know it's not, especially with inflation. What happened? I guess, again, I'm not an economist, but apparently with inflation, the billionaires get the money first, and then when it comes down circulating with to us, it's still money, but it's devalued. Okay, and we get the scraps, so to speak. Well, I guess that's what it is. We get the scraps. if we really want to level the playing field, we need to have competition, real competition, not just like, okay, this is free over here, but this is $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 a year per student. That's not real competition. That's, I mean, for some that can afford to pay for it, great, but not everyone can. And yes, there's scholarships. Don't get me wrong, that's great. Where there's a will, there's a way. But pull the pull the state out of it and let schools run like a marketplace, like the mall, like the town center, the town square, like a mall. Okay, it. But people learn differently. They have different skill sets, different strengths. Now, because of that, obviously it's implied that they also have weak areas, if you can call it weak. It's just they don't they're not strong in every aspect. Why do students are expected to sit in a desk for 6 or 7 hours when some of them just they're not designed that way. They need to move around. They need to do things. Okay, if we're preparing for the 21st century workplace, what does the 21st century workplace really look like? It, well, yeah, I mean it's a maybe an office, a project online, out in the field. It's AI. It's in the digital space. It's everywhere. It's no longer the factories, 9 to 5 factories, because the schools are set up like the 9 to 5 factories. But getting back to uh, the hemisphere, rushes the hemispheres. Again, it's not just about. So to sum up, here's I'm giving my summary here. It's not just about balance. I mean, in a sense, it is. You need to have a balance. It's well, if you look at politics, the last two elections, actually probably the last one. What did I find? 89% of counties moved towards Republicans. Well, I think it's just that it was so much to the left that it actually moved more towards the center, which is where most people are. A balance, a healthy balance. You have a perspective, a healthy perspective. And I think it's a misnomer when we talk about left versus right, because then it's like it's linear, it's a line. If you go too far to the left, you're on the right. You go too far on the right, you're on the left. You become what you despise if you go too far. It's more of a circular, or it's more of a circle. It's circular. So it's not just a balance. It's recognizing that we have different strengths, different perspectives, and having some common sense. It's always either left or over to the right. One thing, I watched Bill Maher's show, uh, Real Time with Bill Maher, and one thing he nailed it. He says, Americans. Well, he's mostly talking about politicians, I think. Americans, we don't just react. We overreact. Okay, we're in schools. We're overreacting with in a lot of areas. Okay, it used to be the kids would get smacked for saying the wrong thing. Well, that's not right either. But letting them do whatever they want, or letting them cuss out somebody and doing whatever they want, and now you grow up. They grow up going and looting stores because there's no consequence. Well, obviously that's not right either. It needs to be in the balance. We need to learn from Cygnus, the bringer of balance. So you may agree with me, you may disagree, you may partially agree with me. That's fine. I'm open to hear, I'm open to um, interact with people in the dialogue, in a dialogue, in a healthy dialogue, and talk about your perspective. And that's kind of the whole thing is if you're at a baseball game and you're sitting on the third base line or the first base line, the game's going to look a lot different than where I am. So let's come together and have some different perspectives, and with this way all together we can figure out the big picture. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to JP's Teachers Lounge, episode 3, a lesson through the hemispheres. That's my perspective, and I'm sticking to it. And please reach out to me on jamespasutichcommunications.com. I'm also on Facebook, James Pasutich Communications, and LinkedIn. Thank you very much, and let's go out and make it a great week. All right, bye everybody.